What's up, star seeds? To all my familia, the dragons, of course. So I chose to do this episode on Atlantis and Lemuria because it's a special time in my culture from October to November, the transition, as you will learn more about in this episode. I've been working on a lot of projects, but I'm back to record this one. I hope you guys enjoy it. Please leave comments. Let me know some spiritual anything in the comments of new episodes you want me to work on. I like to learn about a lot of things, and maybe I know about some of what you want to hear, and I could dive a little deeper. But until then, just stay tuned because I have more. I want to actually do a mirror gazing episode. I've been doing it. At least I've done it at least 3 serious times, and I've seen some crazy stuff, and it'll be cool. I'm gonna keep doing it so I can get some more information on it, and we'll see what I see. But we're ready. We're ready to roll. Let's get this started. To my goons, goblins, witches, warlocks, dragons, and to the fae, here we go. Welcome to Starblood Chronicles. Okay, many of you have probably heard of Lemuria. It's actually, they were known as the Mu, but us in modern times have termed it Lemuria. Lemuria is a lost consciousness. It's not just a lost body of land, but it's just a lost way of being. A place where power did not come from the dominant side of things. No ego. Buried by water and time. They lived by intuition, not intellect. They understood the earth as its own entity, not just a resource. The waters weren't polluted, they were sung to. They called themselves Muans, from the land of Mu. It is no coincidence that we named it Lemuria after the lemur theory, and a lot of people have heard of that, probably only that theory. If you haven't heard of it, it is a hypothesis first proposed by the zoologist Philip. Why can't I read my writing? I'm going to say Slater. A zoologist Philip. It was first proposed by zoologist Philip Slater in 1864 to explain the presence of lemurs in Madagascar and India that were separated by the entire Indian Ocean. However, a sunken continent would help solve that problem. And that's where Lemuria comes in the modern time. It is said that the Pleiadians first seeded humanity, and then the Anunnaki gave us the upgrade. That was a little bit on Lemuria, or the land of Mu. And here's a little bit on Atlantis. And then I'm going to connect somehow. It is said that the Atlanteans are the sons of the first mix of humans, of Earth people, and people from the stars. It began with the 12 families of Atlantis. Therefore, the island was divided into 12 tribes, states, as you know them now. Spawned from the Elohim, we were different frequencies, which translates to different colors or ethnicity. From the indigenous Lemurians to later become a melting pot of Atlantis, or shall we say Aztlan. There are some that think the Atlanteans had a war with extraterrestrials, and in the end, the ETs destroyed Atlantis with a single shot of their most powerful weapon, which would look like a comet falling down to Earth or a dragon. And just like the Muons, the survivors had to migrate to another landmass, or even a lot of them went into inner Earth, which, by the way, inner Earth, yes, some people have lived inside the Earth, but inner Earth is actually a different dimension. And you get to that portal by going into the Earth, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's there. It's just a portal. Got it? The reason why I'm doing this episode now is because the months October to November are the anniversary of the destruction of Atlantis, or Aztlan, which makes perfect sense because we have Dia de los Muertos on that same transition. And Bashar seems to think the same thing because he's the one who said it. And let's keep going. Now, from the beginning, there was Atlantis. Okay, like I've already stated, before Atlantis, there was Lemuria, aka Land of Mu. They were direct. So this is the Muons. This is the Lemurians here. They were direct offshoots of the Anunnaki. Many of them slightly blue tint to their skin. It was hugely in the Asian continent. India even has gods with blue skin, and that's what they are representing is the Anunnaki, and sometimes the Lemurian too, aka Muon. I'm just gonna keep saying that so you know that Mu is Lemuria. We later coined them as Lemurians, but they were initially Muon. Muons occupied the South Pacific area where many of their land masses are buried under the ocean. I think it's like Fiji and some other places. They were a more natural civilization, very connected to nature. They were highly telepathic and communicated with all beings on Earth. Truly people of the land. Hawaii is one of the last remnants of the Moon society that is above the water today. All the rest is sunken. They had a very paradise-like atmosphere. They were great sailors and moved around a lot, even to what we call the American continents of today. Okay. Later, these would be the people that started Atlantis. Lemuria was destroyed naturally. Some people say they had a war with the new Atlanteans, like they were trying to separate. But all in all, it was a cyclic cycle. It was a cycle where you had to leave before the atmosphere and temperature and everything just changed very drastically. That's a natural migration that they had to make. Land masses broke up, including volcanic and earthquake activity, that type of stuff. Earth is a planet of great cycle. So if you understand that, you understand like the Kali Yuga and how all things shift. And if you don't adapt, you get slapped. Unlike the Lemurians, or let's say the Muons, Atlanteans attracted a comet that would end up being their downfall. You see, there's stories that say it's a comet, but that would look very similar to a fiery dragon to other people. So basically, Atlanteans vibrationally attracted the comet due to their disconnect to nature in their later years. After their height, when they went totally technological, that's when they started to have their downfall. They were choosing technology over nature. They began to exhibit self-destructive tendencies through hubris. Look it up if you don't know what that is. They ended up shifting into a timeline, which if you know what I know. Every second we shift into, I don't know how many different times. So they shifted themselves into a timeline where, they ended up shifting into themselves into it. One, two. They ended up shifting themselves into a timeline of destruction and devastation. Side note, our collective consciousness works to return or reflect what we vibrate to the universe, right? Because the universe is a mirror. Therefore, evolution from within will ensure our evolution from without. This is key to our human evolution. And we need to understand that from these other civilizations that were wiped out. Only high vibes survive. Atlanteans were on average about 7 feet tall. The remnants of them is still seen just a little bit in Aztecian culture and Incas and some European stock like the Basque people. You could look them up too. Every generation gets more and more diluted of the Anunnaki's genes. However, this tells me that the Atlanteans were already a mixed population. And I've only heard Billy Carson say that, but it just makes way more sense than saying we were already separated. If we come from the stars and the earth, then it's already a mixed pot. That's what I think. But it makes sense to me that we were separated after the Great Flood. Who called that play is still up for much debate. So it was a melting pot, like I said, and it is said that the biblical Nephilim were actually ancient Atlanteans, the children of the Elohim or whatever. Whatever. I don't follow that book. The feathered serpent of the Aztec society. Okay, listen to this part because this is a huge connection from Atlantis to the Aztec, or as they call themselves, the Mexica. The feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl, I don't know, maybe I said it wrong, represents the comet that destroyed Atlantis. The Aztecs even had a name for Atlantis in their language, and it was known as Aztlan. Scholars and schools of today will not want this connection to be true, but it is looking inescapable. Even Google states Aztlan is the legendary ancestral homeland of the Aztec people from which they migrated to found their empire in what is now Mexico. Atlanteans had huge quartz crystal temples for communicating with cetaceans. That's like dolphins and whales. Instead of sailing out to sea, they made huge canals all the way to the temple so the cetaceans could just swim up to them and inside the temple. So they could have like one large party with all the cetaceans and humans or Atlanteans. That sounds pretty cool. Why is it illegal to hang out with dolphins now? Some weird stuff going on. There is even information coded into the pyramids of Giza in order to preserve the knowledge of Atlantis. And those are the Atlanteans that before they left, the regular humans here, they helped leave messages and encode different pyramids so that their knowledge wouldn't be lost. We needed to learn from them, from what happened to them. Most pyramids around the world were directed and built by remaining Atlanteans. Mm-hmm. Before the remaining Atlanteans left Earth, they guided several civilizations on how to rebuild and elevate, but mainly to preserve their knowledge on this planet. Okay, let's take a little break. Okay, 2, 3, 4. So just to be clear, I'm going to try to explain it so no one can. So it could be more understood in the timeline that I'm explaining it in. So the Lemurians were more of the indigenous type that you see in the North, Central, and South America. They migrated across the land from the Pacific Ocean side to the Atlantic side, which is where Atlantis was built first. It's more of just a hub because everything kind of became Atlantis. So the piece that's missing is the main hub. The piece that's underwater is the main Aztlan. So it then became more of a melting pot in the later years before the comet came and sunk the land masses to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. However, the closest look of a society we can say that has some architecture of Atlantis was the Aztecian civilization. Therefore, the closest thing we have to an Atlantean today, or therefore, the closest thing we have to an Atlantean today, or were the Aztecs and the indigenous people of Spain, the Basques, were the same people, just different ethnicity. But we were all once Atlanteans and Lemurians. And so, as we got to as we were getting to the later years of Atlantis before the comet, the smallest group of the most connected to nature and spirituality were the Atlanteans that migrated to Central America before the comet hit. Aztlan, aka Atlantis, in the what the fuck? That shit didn't make. So as we're getting to the latter end of the Atlantean, um, there was only a very small group of smallest Atlanteans. It's funny that they say that, but that's what it has been said, that the smallest Atlanteans were given guidance by I don't know whom, probably nature, but the smallest and the most connected to nature and spirituality of the Atlanteans were told to migrate to Central America before the comet hit Aztlan, because that was going to have to be their new home. Something told them to get out of Dodge before the dragon came and destroyed Atlantis for their lack of heart, let's say. So that means many of us all over the planet stem from the same place. We just need to remember that. So here's a little bit of what each civilization symbolized or represented. And we definitely need to put these together and become a balanced civilization at this point. Lemuria represented the divine feminine, nurturing energy of unconditional love, emotional intelligence, and inner knowing. They honored intuition as the highest form of wisdom. All things were connected through the heart, from the earth to the star. Unlike Atlantis, they symbolized the masculine, right? The intellectual and technological path. It was it was too they were too busy building empires and conquering to be they all just got ground to dust, or shall we say sand. That's where their empire is now. So I hope you like that one. That was fun for me because I learned a lot about not just my culture but a lot of them, because we're all in it together. The way I see it, uh, we need to understand both civilizations so that we can become true human, like full human. We're not full human. Balanced humans that use heart and logic at the same time. Most of the people today are only half wits, half human. Like Bashar says, we use 100% of our brain to think we only use 10%. That's that's how programmed we are. It is time to take the knowledge we have learned from these great civilizations and it is time. Okay, ready? It is time to take the knowledge we have learned from these great civilizations and release our fear of each other, of everything. This It takes time. I mean, I'm still doing it every day though. You got to be knowledgeable of yourself to do it. Fear creates toxicity. A true new full human will be a complete balance with self and others, nature and technology. We know the game plan. Now let's just execute it. All right. I hope you guys had fun. It's always fun doing these. Have a great night, and I'll see you on the next episode. Starseed. Netlamachtikli.